While my childhood was filled with many wonderful cartoons, one of the most influential was SpongeBob SquarePants. It was hard not to love the silly little sponge, even if my mom found him annoying. Lately, I've been revisiting some of the old episodes I grew up with, and I'm realizing why they were so influential. Sure, the concept of the show itself was fun, and it was riddled with interesting characters and locations, but at its core, the early seasons of this show told really grounded stories, albeit in silly ways. A standout episode of the bunch being the season 1 episode, Pickles. This one holds a special place in my heart because it aired often when I was young and always seemed to be on around lunchtime, so it felt as though I was eating my lunch at the Krusty Krab alongside other patrons as Bubble Bass stormed in. It's a deeply rooted piece of nostalgia that I still look back on fondly, even if I was eating a turkey sandwich instead of a Krabby Patty. Anyway, this episode isn't just a silly story about SpongeBob forgetting how to live his life. It's actually a story about what can happen when others make you doubt yourself. When someone can make you question something you're good at through means of manipulation and deceit. The episode starts off with a typical day at the Krusty Krab. Squidward's taking orders and SpongeBob's whipping them up swiftly. And it places a little extra emphasis on his skills to show the audience that he isn't just a good fry cook, he's the best. With the ability to prepare entire platters of burgers in just seconds. Which transitions nicely into the main conflict when it arrives. A large fish by the name of Bubble Bass comes up to the register and orders a Krabby Patty. SpongeBob leans out the window with a burger, only to show intense shock at the sight of this fish. Turns out, he's heard of Bubble Bass's reputation of being a picky eater, and there's this brief little standoff that's quickly pacified by SpongeBob's general carefree attitude. He knows that Bubble Bass is a bit of a bully, but he's confident enough in his abilities that the scare tactics won't get to him, even to the point that when after the big fish takes his first bite, SpongeBob gives him a smug look, asking him how it is. He knows he made the burger correctly, just as he always does, so he's waiting for the validation. Only that's not what happens. Instead, Bubble Bass says the burger's okay, but he forgot the pickles, which sends SpongeBob into a frenzy. Bubble Bass leaves the establishment, but not before getting a full refund and leaving the poor little sponge in the dust, parsing through little bits of burger trying to find an answer for the disappearing pickles. Mr. Krabs tries to get him back behind the grill, but the damage is already done. This wasn't just a moment of embarrassment. Bubble Bass made SpongeBob question his own reality. He made him feel crazy. Worst of all, he created doubt in the little sponge's mind. And this would cause a ripple effect, making SpongeBob unable to cook and assemble Krabby Patties. Not only that, it'd go even further, infecting his mind and how he leads his own personal life. After SpongeBob's home for some time, Mr. Krabs realizes that he can't let Squidward be in the kitchen for much longer, or he'll lose his business. Desperate, he goes to SpongeBob's house and hopes to get him back to work. However, upon arriving, he witnesses something wildly bizarre and unfortunate. Everything in SpongeBob's house is in disarray. He's become so confused that he no longer knows where anything goes, much less what it's for. Walking backwards, wearing underwear on his head, and speaking in jumbled English, it's easy to see just how lost the poor guy has gotten. I'd also like to mention that even the music in this scene is warped and disjointed, subconsciously conveying to the audience the extent of SpongeBob's confusion. Little details like this are what I love about the early seasons of this show. It's no secret that there was an immense amount of love and creativity poured into it. Anyway, Mr. Krabs pleads with SpongeBob to come back to work, but he insists that he can't do it anymore. He's all washed up. If he can't remember to put pickles on a burger, how can he call himself a fry cook? Mr. Krabs says he's being too hard on himself, prompting his young employee to work until he gets his groove back, all the while being right by his side, night after night. It's a brutal endeavor, but finally, SpongeBob has an epiphany. He realizes that he's sure he can't do it, to which Mr. Krabs objects. But this upsets SpongeBob, who shows a rare side of anger and frustration, which culminates in him aggressively assembling a Krabby Patty, only to look at it in shock after realizing what he's just done. This was the eureka moment the two had been looking for, which leads Mr. Krabs to insist that SpongeBob's ready to go back to work and face his demons. And he does just that. The young sponge marches into work, walking with a purpose, and swiftly removes Squidward from the kitchen. It's not long before a whole crowd realizes the return of the establishment's prized fry cook, and the restaurant is packed once more. And almost like clockwork, the man himself, Bubble Bass, walks in, looking to cause trouble once again. He hears of the fry cook's return, and SpongeBob enters the room, looking confident and proud. He's not going to let this bully push him around anymore, because he knows his worth, and more importantly, he's more confident in his abilities than ever. It's also important to note that SpongeBob is much less carefree in this scene. He realizes the weight and stakes. It's not fun and games anymore. Since he's got something to prove, he's not gonna give Bubble Bass a fine howdy do. Instead, he glares at him, staring him down in an effort to show him that he's not scared. After an epic showdown and SpongeBob confidently whipping up a patty in an instant, he's ready to see Bubble Bass crumble with embarrassment. But to his dismay, the snide fish once again accuses him of forgetting the pickles. However, instead of SpongeBob immediately questioning himself, he questions the only other variable in the situation: Bubble Bass, leading to a shocking revelation. Turns out Bubble Bass had been hiding the pickles under his tongue the whole time, which leaves everyone in disbelief. It'd be one thing if this had just been some cheap trick to save a couple bucks, but this was targeted. It was clear that Bubble Bass wanted to make SpongeBob feel small. Much like SpongeBob was aware of his reputation, Bubble Bass had heard the good word of Fry Cook SpongeBob's delicious Krabby Patties. This was a mission of defamation, and sadly, it worked. He put SpongeBob through a traumatic experience, and all he could do was laugh. But now, the tables were turned, and Bubble Bass wasn't laughing anymore. And even after all of this, he acts like a coward. Instead of facing the crowd that's just turned on him, he immediately bails, leaving the patrons as they begin cheering for SpongeBob. The takeaway from this story is lovely, because it shows very real dangers to be cautious of in the world while providing a silly story for kids to enjoy along the way. We can go through life with a smile, doing the best at what we love, but there are always going to be people out there that want to take it all away. This is because there are people out there who aren't happy with their life. They wish for a better life, but instead of working towards personal goals and lifting themselves up, they try to crush dreams and pull others down. So with that being said, strive to be like SpongeBob in this episode. Actually, strive to be better than SpongeBob. He had to learn the hard way what it's like for somebody to make you feel small. As an audience, we should learn from his mistakes. Don't let the Bubble Bass in your life get under your skin. Trust your successes and passions. They're beautiful and make you who you are. Without that sense of purpose, we're lost. So, keep your head up. And don't forget the pickles. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.